According to 2014 Vietnam Population and Housing Census, Vietnam has entered a restructuring phase of demographic bonus with the highest percentage of young people in history, almost a third of the national population. There is an opportunity to promote socio-economic development of Vietnam. Hence, we must ensure that youth enhanced and assured in education and healthcare in order to play their full potential.
Cái quan điểm lần này trong cái việc xây dựng cái luật thanh niên là chúng ta phải đảm bảo là thanh niên là phải là người xung kích, là người tình nguyện, là người đi đầu trong việc thực hiện cái quyền và nghĩa vụ của mình. Chính vì vậy nên là cái việc mà phân công cho các cái bộ ngành để thực hiện cái chức năng quản lý nhà nước ở trong từng ngành, cái lĩnh vực để bảo đảm cho thanh niên được thực hiện đầy đủ các cái quyền cơ bản như quyền về học tập, quyền về lao động, quyền về vui chơi và giải trí, quyền được tiếp cận các cái dịch vụ thông tin, quyền được là chăm sóc sức khỏe, quyền để mà được thực hiện các cái hoạt động xã hội cộng đồng.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sheng Vietnam on VTC10 Net Viet. Vietnam has developed a national strategies for youth development for the period of 2011-2020 and in the progress of revising and drafting the new youth law. However, there's still a big gaps between the reality and the national strategy. We're here today with the representative from UNFPA Vietnam, and she will share with us about how we can develop and prioritize some of the aspects in the national strategies for youth development. Thank you, Ms. Astrid Ban, for joining us today. Currently, Vietnam is in the period of demographic bonus. That means that the majority of the population is youth. Demographic bonus also create substantial challenges for the country. So what are the challenges that the youth are facing?
Young people still have some obstacles in accessing the education that they need and want. Jobs, good jobs, jobs that actually make use of the education that you had. Sexual and reproductive health is still a challenge in this country. Maybe less for adults and people that are married, but family planning services are exactly that. They plan families. But if you are a single young person, these services don't often give you what you're looking for, which is protecting yourself from unwanted pregnancies, unsafe abortions, sexuality education in schools in a really broad way that not just talks about sexuality and avoiding pregnancies, but also helps you to learn and train in life skills, how to deal with other people, how to deal with intimate relationships.
And in the process of developing the national strategies and policies for youth development, what is the role of UNFPA in supporting Vietnam?
The difficulty of a youth law or youth strategy or plan is that it has to be comprehensive and integrated, and governments are usually organized in the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education. So they have to form some kind of a government agency, a ministry or a secretariat or an inter-ministerial coordination body in which these things come together. And the plans are usually, you can make a plan, you can write it down, but then implementing it is quite a challenge. And youth development is different for different groups. It's very different what a person needs who's 25 from a person who is 15. One of the most important aspects of making sure that your services actually have development as their result is asking young people to be involved in the implementation, and the design, the implementation, and the evaluation of these services. And that's often an aspect that we tend to forget. It's a permanent investment of the states in their next generation. And what is good for this generation might not be good for the next generation because expectations change, circumstances, budgets, all kinds of things change. Our mandate is sexual reproductive health and rights, and that is an area that is really important for young people.
In 2015, the first ever National Youth Report was completed. This creates the foundation to build youth development plans after 2015, revised 2005 youth law, strategies and policies related to Vietnam youth development at the national and local level. Recently, a conference of sharing international experience on youth development policy held by Ministry of Home Affairs with the technical assistance of UNFPA, bringing the experiences from the other countries like Sri Lanka, Brazil, Bulgaria, the Philippines and the United Kingdom in the process of constructing youth policies, which stress the importance of youth involvement.
So through the forms of workshops, we educate these young people, and also we get these young people to participate in the policy making process through a lot of interactive engagement with high-level policymakers. So because of this involvement of young people in policy making, I think there's a lot of changes that happen at the provincial level as well as the national level.
The other important thing about youth policy is that this is a cross-sectoral policy. It is not just one ministry or one organization that implements this policy.
More educated, more included young people want more autonomy, they want more freedom to do various things. But a lot of research points to the fact that a lot of excluded young people want more support, more guidance, more information, more help. So you've got to think about tailoring different policy initiatives to different groups of young people.
Besides the issues of access to education and employment, sexual education is another issue particularly raised and entrusted by many young attendees.
Họ từ sự e ngại của mình rụt rè và không dám chia sẻ với người lớn, thì là những cái điều đấy là rào cản rất là lớn để mình có thể hiểu biết được về vấn đề đấy.
For the last year and a half, 2 years, it has become more and more important to talk about healthcare, which include and health lifestyle, which includes sexual education. So we have adopted amendment in our law on education last year. So it is included now as choosable at this moment subject that can be put in the programs, and it can be chosen by the directors of the schools or the young people themselves and their parents.
All the research evidence on sexual reproductive health is that if you have early sexual health education, you reduce a lot of the sexual health risk later on in young people's lives. So schools need to be willing to bring in experts from outside who are not teachers but are particularly good at doing that form of education and learning with the right age group, which is normally sort of probably as young as 12 or 13. You look at your data, you're talking about quite young girls getting into difficulty with early pregnancy and so on.
International experience shows the protection of youth rights, creating favorable conditions for youth to complete at least secondary education with the necessary life skills, ensuring the ability to access sexual and reproductive health services is the essential platform for the youth to start a healthy and successful stage of maturity.
Among many aspects in youth development, one arising issue is relating to sexual education in schools for youth. How do you think about this issue in Vietnam?
Statistics in Vietnam show that around 35% of young people don't have access to sexual reproductive health services. That's services in the broad sense. So they don't have enough information, and they also don't use services that can help them to avoid pregnancies. That deficit could be prevented if young people, when they are in school age, would be educated on sexual reproductive health rights, and life skills, right? Ideally, sexuality education is taught to children and young people of all ages, appropriate to their age. So a child of 7 has other questions than a child of 12 and other needs than a child of 15. I already said before, this doesn't mean that having the information makes you also sexually active. The research simply bears out that that's not the case. Teachers will maybe teach biological facts in a biology class, but when it comes to talking about violence against women or rape or other issues that have to do with sexuality, they become uncomfortable and they'll race through the material or they won't teach it. So we know that that needs to be taken care of for it to be effective. And then the other thing is, on the side of the students, the recommendation would be that this kind of information is actually examinable, which means that exams ask you questions about these issues. Otherwise, they are not taken as serious as other subjects that are being taught. So these two recommendations would be very important, I think.
What are some international models and experiences that UNFPA could share with Vietnam in order to not only enhancing the role of sexual education in providing more information for the youth in sexual reproductive health, but also in developing a more effective national strategy for youth development?
Comprehensive sexuality education means not just the biological facts, not just avoiding pregnancy and illnesses, but being able to, at an early age, understand what it is to have a good, healthy, serious, positive relationship with another person. On the other hand, I think it's really important that parents are taught how to work with their kids on this area. And there are international experiences with parent schools and helping parents to face their own fears and their own ignorance sometimes on certain topics. Younger people have to have a space and a way of finding out what their agenda is, what they want, what are the problems that they identify and what are the solutions that they identify. This needs to happen in a youth space. Then it will be taken to a broader discussion within the society where there is old people and people with families and people that work and people that don't. There's all kinds of people in that society. There's always a group in any society that is the hardest to reach, that have the least chances, that live the furthest away, that have really big challenges like people with discapacities, orphans. And in those groups, you have to invest more. That's the way it goes. And we know that if you make sure that you don't leave anybody behind and you bring the most disadvantaged children to the center, your whole society will be healthier.
Thank you, Ms. Astrid Ben, so much for all of your sharing today. And that's the end for our program today. Thank you so much for watching us. Hopefully we have provided you with informative program on the environment that we can build for a comprehensive development of the youth. Any questions and recommendations, please email to shangvietnam@netvietv.net. Thank you and see you again.